Hello, beautiful. Welcome to today's conversation. In honor of Mental Health Month, I want to have conversations on a couple of topics that I hope will keep us on top of how we look at our mental wellness and our mental health. For today's episode, I want to talk about what is anxiety and depression. They affect so many of us today that I thought we should have a brief conversation about them. Let's talk about it. I am your host, Shannon Martin, and welcome to today's episode of This Thing Called Nuances. Hello and welcome back. I hope you are doing well. Can you believe it's May already? My goodness gracious. And May is the month of mental health awareness. As I was thinking of a couple of topics to talk about, I realized I never really talked about what mental health is and what the meaning of anxiety and depression is. I haven't discussed it medically or anything, to be honest. Probably because I'm not a medical professional. But I am a specialist, somewhat, on the diagnosis in a roundabout way. I have continued to research what it is and how they both affect me daily. I am always learning and trying to stay in touch with how I am feeling and what's going on with me emotionally. Today, over 40 million adults in the world are affected by anxiety and depression. That's a staggering number. Whether you're experiencing it yourself or have loved ones who struggle, understanding anxiety and depression is so important. Mental health is the state of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, influencing our ability to handle stress, build relationships, and make choices. So having good mental health is like having a positive outlook on our lives, right? And being able to cope with life challenges. But having poor mental health can lead to anxiety, depression, and other mental issues. So let's talk about it briefly and how we can get help and prioritize our mental well-being. You probably felt it at some point in life, like that nervous feeling before a big test or job review. But when does it go from being a normal response to stress to something more serious? Anxiety becomes a disorder when it starts to take over your life. You might find yourself worrying all the time, even about little things. Or maybe you avoid places or situations because you're afraid of feeling anxious. For me, I avoid highways because all of the traffic sends me over the edge. I really have to prepare myself mentally to drive. So I have to find alternate routes on side roads or back roads that doesn't have too many lanes or too many cars because I have had panic attacks and I had to pull over to take medication while I was driving. Panic attacks, if you ever had one, you know how intense they can be. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking, I couldn't breathe. It was extremely scary, especially when you're driving. And with mine, I have fine tremors, which means I shake uncontrollably. So I have to really make sure I carry medication at all times and focus on staying as calm as I can in any situation. There are several types of anxiety disorders, but I will touch on the three because they affect me the most and maybe the most well known, right? They are generalized anxiety disorder, which involves excessive worry that is difficult to control and has symptoms such as muscle tension, fatigue, and restlessness. Social anxiety disorder, which is an intense fear of being judged or embarrassed in public. And panic disorder, where you have recurring episodes of panic attacks. These attacks can happen suddenly, where your heart is racing, you're sweating, and you're experiencing the shortness of breath, right? And the reason why I focus on those three is because I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, with a touch of panic disorder. I know. It's confusing. And sometimes my counselor wonders if I may be developing some kind of social anxiety because of my ability to withdraw. But I'm doing my best not to be diagnosed with anything else. All of these, if left unmanaged, can really take a toll on your life. They can show up anywhere, at any time, under any circumstances, no matter how big or how small. It is very hard to explain to people who have never known serious depression or anxiety the sheer continuous intensity of it. There's no off switch. Matt Haig. Depression. It's more than just feeling down or having a bad day. It's like a cloud that just won't lift. You might lose interest in things you used to enjoy or feel tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep. It's just not feeling temporarily sad or down, but that constant feeling of emptiness and hopelessness that doesn't go away. Depression can make you feel guilty or worthless, and it can affect your body too, by changing your appetite to where you may want to eat more or not eat at all. It affects your sleep patterns. I may have insomnia one night, and some nights I may sleep too much. You just never know what kind of rest or unrest you will have when you're in what I call my high alert depressed state. There are different severities of depression, but the one I would touch on is major depressive disorder, or MDD, or as we hear, clinical depression. It is a severe form of depression that needs treatment. Major depression causes prolonged periods of sadness, loss of interest in activities, changes in sleep patterns or appetite, fatigue, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, and in severe cases, thoughts of self or suicide. The reason it's called clinical is that you will have had these symptoms for nearly all day for at least 2 weeks. Major depressive disorder is what I have been diagnosed with. These feelings kept me in bed for a very long time and were very hard to break. You have to slowly work your way out of this cycle and be ready for help. What people never understand is that depression isn't about the outside, it's about the inside. Jasmine Warga. Anxiety and depression are serious medical conditions that need proper care and support. They are often bedmates, as my doctors like to call them, because they usually run together, meaning you may suffer from both of them at the same time, like I do. Maybe you've been there before or you're in that season right now. Having the courage to open up and get help is a huge step. Speaking from my personal experience, working with a therapist and counselor, and finding the right medication, if needed, can make a huge difference in your life. Therapists and counselors are trained to help you work through your feelings. They can teach you coping skills and ways to manage your stress. The form of therapy I take is cognitive behavior therapy, or talk therapy. This form of therapy helps change your unhelpful and unhealthy ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and it has helped me tremendously. Medication is also an option for some people. It can help balance the imbalances of our brain neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, which is our memory or movement hormone, and serotonin. We all know this is our happy hormone, but it also helps with sleep and digestion. With medication, it can make it easier to handle daily life, but everyone's different. So it's important to find what works for you. It took me years to realize that I needed this additional step to help balance me out. Medication coupled with counseling got me moving again, to the point where now I can think about self-care routines. You know, the fluffy stuff. Because at one time I didn't care about any of it. Getting professional support is important, but so is the power of self-care routines, a strong support system, and really prioritizing your mental health. There are also things you can do on your own, like exercising. Exercising is a great mood booster because, it gets us our endorphins. I love happy teens. And relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation can help calm my nerves. Connecting with positive friends and positive family that give you the support you need. And remember to take things one step at a time. Mindful moment. Being diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health struggle is nothing to be ashamed of. Unfortunately, it's becoming incredibly common. The key is being able to spot the signs, understand what you're going through or what loved ones are going through, and get them the proper care and the support you or they deserve. There is still such a bad stigma surrounding mental health, which is why I created this podcast so that we can have open conversations about it to help break down those stigmas and explain why mental health months are so important. It reminds us to put our mental health in check and ask ourselves, how you doing? Are you okay, girl? It gives us a chance to really get to know ourselves, our inner selves. As I continue to grow and walk on this wellness journey, I'm amazed at how far I've come. Anxiety and depression had hindered my life for a while. It had crippled me in a way that I never saw coming. You never think that you be incapacitated in a way where you don't want to comb your hair, brush your teeth, or laugh. And I love a good laugh. I was raised in a fashion capital and ended up not even caring what I looked like or felt like, if I wanted to eat or drink. My children and husband, whom I love so dearly, were replaced with sleep and despair. Whoever thinks that you wake up to go to the emergency room with half of your body shaking and in shambles and be diagnosed with major depressive disorder and panic disorder, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the physical effects, or I didn't pay attention to it. It would have massive effects on my body with weight gain from my sedentary lifestyle. I later developed diabetes, which added restless leg syndrome, sleep apnea, and all the other illnesses that just kept piling on me until I said enough is enough. Now, will all of this disappear tomorrow? Absolutely not. Will I lose weight soon? No. It took me over a decade of suffering to managing to now creating the life that I want, and it's still challenging some days. Just to help find harmony in this journey, I need a better sleep routine, a daily schedule, and I need to move daily. It's going to take a minute to get me back on track and find that harmony. But I am on my way to finding it, and so will you. No matter what you have been through, no matter how rocky the road has been, remember to keep moving forward. Remember Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. And one day, you will look at yourself in the mirror and say, hello, beautiful. There you are. And it will be worth the journey. Love you, girl. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found value in today's conversation where we talked about what is anxiety and depression. I'm your host, Shannon Martin. Be sure to join us next Wednesday where we will continue our Mental Health Month discussions, where we will discuss mental health and technology. Until then, stay healthy and well. Take care. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It really helps new listeners find us and join our wellness community. Don't forget to stay connected with us across all our social media platforms at Shannon B. Wellness. We got plenty of exciting things in store. So be sure to join us on this journey to wellness towards a healthier, happier, more vibrant. Thanks for tuning in. Disclaimer: I am not a licensed mental health professional. The information provided here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you need help, please consult a qualified mental health professional.